So good afternoon. It's 12 p.m. I'd like to call the December 16th, 2020 Clinton Regional Development Corporation's 67th annual meeting to order. My name is Steve Clements. I'm the current chair of the CRDC, and I would like to welcome everyone to the CRDC's annual meeting. This is a celebration of 67 years of operation in the greater Clinton region. Now, like I said a second ago, everyone's line should be muted, which will keep the cheering down, but I also realize it will make my jokes seem less funny when I don't get any feedback. I've been told that you can certainly, if you've called in, you can press *6 to unmute yourself, and then later when we go to the vote, we can make sure everyone's unmuted at that time as well. So I'd like to start out by thanking all of our investors. Without investment into our organization, 67 years of this organization's work, does not exist. The past year has been a special year for the CRDC because we were able to wrap up our most recent 2024 Future Focus campaign. This was a campaign where we saw nearly 30 new investors into the CRDC. I'd like to acknowledge Paula Stewart, who was the co-chair with me on that campaign, and acknowledge Mike Johnson, who chaired our Investor Relations Committee after that initial campaign period was over. So more to follow on that campaign success later. I would also like to acknowledge our elected officials that are here with us today. It'll be much harder to acknowledge everyone over the Teams call, but if you're a state level official, mayor, county supervisors, city council members, etc., please give us a little wave. We truly appreciate your attendance with us today. A few of these elected officials are CRDC board members, and many of them we've developed significant relationships with that have only strengthened our relationship with our local and our state government. So this time last year, I sat at a table in the front of the room of the Wild Rose and listened to past chair Mike Johnson give his opening remarks and name drop Notre Dame a few times and introduce Debbie Durham as our special guest speaker. And Debbie is the director of the IEDA and a quite dynamic speaker. Unfortunately, due to the nature of this year's meeting, we were unable to have a guest speaker, so everyone's stuck with me, which I'm not nearly as dynamic as Debbie, but I can promise you that we have an amazing program for you today, and we will keep things moving as quick as possible. So when I took over as chair in January 2020, I was filled with excitement, not only about just being asked to be chair of the organization, but you could just feel that, Clinton was on the cusp of many big things. You could just tell that the year was going to bring great things for our organization and for the region. Aaron, and Andy will get into this year's achievements next. But if you remember back to the start of 2020, there was a lot of excitement in our region. On top of that excitement, the CRDC's Future Focus 2024 campaign was well underway. The staff was working on several new project leads. The new workforce development programs were rolling out, and I was just kicking back, enjoying dinners and drinks with prospects. I agreed to chair the organization at the right time. Everything was running smoothly, and I was almost in full cruise control until March hit when we were faced with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think a lot can be said about how the pandemic has changed the way the world has operated. I would have never imagined I would be hosting this many meetings in front of my computer. People used to get worried when they walk past your office and you appear to be talking to yourself. But in 2020, that's the new normal. I can't thank the staff enough on how they handled the pandemic. One of my roles here at Citizens First is business development, and economic development is very much like business development, only on steroids. And not being able to physically host prospects to our community, showcase our region, showcase our assets, it makes it for a tough task to overcome. But I was able to witness firsthand the CRDC staff and our partners at the City of Clinton. Special acknowledgement to City Administrator Matt Brook and Mayor Scott Madison, I was able to watch them develop new approaches really on the run, and it without a doubt set Clinton apart when it came to achieving our goals. From virtual site visits to Microsoft Teams calls, there really hasn't been anything that we haven't been able to overcome. And for anyone that has dealt with any of these Teams calls, we all know that there's technology issues are inevitable, but it's been impressive for me to watch how the organization has adapted to these changes. So my time as chair has provided me, a level of insight into economic development that I would have never been able to experience, and I'm grateful for that. As many of you already know, economic development is a long game, and it's very secretive in nature because of all the NDAs. And I've enjoyed working closely with the city of Clinton and the potential prospects. I have a lot of passion for the city, for Clinton area, which is why I moved my family back nearly 10 years ago. So it makes me feel good when I hear why these companies are seeking out our area and are wanting to be here as well. Even with all the challenges that we witnessed in 2020, it's been a year to remember, and I honestly can't believe that it's passed so quickly, and I'll be passing the gavel already. And I've been honored to assist the staff throughout the past year. I look forward to hanging around as past chair, just as Mike's done for the next year. I'd like to thank Mike Johnson for his guidance over the past year. Mike's been a wealth of knowledge and is by and far the most tedious note taker / collector of all things CRDC. Again, I'd like to thank Mike for chairing the Investor Relations Committee, to help through that process. I'd like to thank Rich Phelan and Bob Holsinger and Tom Fullerton, who have always allowed me to kind of dip into their memory banks from time to time to teach me the history of the CRDC in our region. And I'd also like to thank the rest of the exec committee members, which is Paula Stewart, Carrie Finzel, Jarek Lucky, and Brig Tubbs. You've always made yourself available to me when decisions need to be made, and I appreciate that. So finally, again, I'd like to thank our investors. The CRDC's history of 67 years, is substantial. I don't know where that ranks with anywhere else, but to me, it seems like a really long time. And none of it, could really have been done without your commitment. And I know on behalf of the board of directors, I thank you. So now, to keep the program moving, it's my privilege to introduce CRDC's President CEO, Erin Cole.
Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate that. So we're going to get started with a PowerPoint presentation that Andy put together for us. So I'm going to pause for just a second, and he's going to bring that up on the screen for us. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Erin Cole. I'm President and CEO of the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. Hard to believe, I've been here almost 2.5 years now. As Steve said, time goes by quickly these days. 2020 for us was extremely busy. Ironically enough, we understand obviously that the pandemic was intrusive and disruptive, and it brought economic pain to a lot of people, both individually and certainly for businesses, and we certainly respect that. Ironically for us on the economic development side, certainly on the industrial development side, we never slowed down. This year is extremely busy for us, and ironically enough also very, very productive and very successful. So we're very proud of that, and we have a lot of good things that we're going to cover in the PowerPoint presentation here. And before I get started, I just want to see, I'm looking at the participant list. I see we have a great group of people. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that. So without any further ado, let's go to the first slide. So for those of you who may not know us that well, we're going to start out with staff, and we have our photos here. I'm a visual person myself. That's why I always like doing the PowerPoints, actually. So you'll see Andy Sokolovich is our Vice President of Economic Developments. He wears many hats, and he is also our tech guru and our expert at business retention and expansion, workforce development, and also business attraction. Really, the two of us were alone together in the office most of this year, really from like mid-February into mid-September. So thank you very much to Andy for all the work that you do for our organization and for the community. Stacy Borgeson just recently joined us. She's our newest member. She's our office coordinator and just started in September 21st, mid-September. So she's been with us for about 3 months now. And then Tracy Freeman, some of you may know her. She's actually an employee of the Chamber of Commerce, but she wears multiple hats as well. And she's also the business manager for the CRDC. She does our financials and payroll and other things. So Stacy and Tracy are both on the line. I just want to thank them very much for all that they do for the CRDC on a regular basis and just being very nice, responsive, very pleasant people to work with. Obviously, I want to thank our full CRDC Board of Directors, which you could see on the screen here. I won't read them off. We have 24 board directors in total. We do have some vacancies at the moment, and that's why, at the end of today's meeting, we're going to take the vote to fill those board vacancies. For anyone who's on the line, if you're an investor in good standing, you could become a board director. So if anyone has that interest, please do let me know. You can email me or call or something after the meeting and let me know. We don't currently have any openings. The point of the annual meeting is typically to take the vote, and we vote on our new board directors, but openings come available, fairly frequently. And so I just want to make sure for our investors out there to know that if you are interested in becoming a future board director, please let us know, and we'll keep that in mind. And if there's an opening, obviously we'll contact you. So Future Focus 2024, Steve Clements mentioned this. Almost everybody literally on the line, if you're an investor, you know what this is because you were contacted last year in 2019 regarding Future Focus 2024, which is our new 5-year economic development plan. So we have a strategic plan that we operate off of. And with that goes our fundraising. So as you all know, we're a nonprofit economic development organization. We couldn't do anything that we do right now without your financial contributions, so we're extremely grateful for that. We were established in 1953, so we've been working for 67 years in the greater Clinton community. Obviously focused mostly on industrial development, but we certainly touch on commercial development as well. And just want to thank everybody again for your financial support. I think most of you know the rest of it. We're a bi-state organization. We do cover into Fulton, Illinois, Albany, and Thompson. Actually, we're expanding our reach a bit on the Illinois side. Metform and JT Cullen, others are members of Agri-King. We have a lot of investors on the Illinois side, always looking for more Illinois-based businesses to join us. And of course, on the Iowa side, we cover Clinton, Comanche, and Lowmore. Andy, you can change the slide. So again, Future Focus 2024 was both the 5-year economic development plan and the fundraising campaign. So throughout 2019, Dennis Hinkle, we hired a company called Convergent. Dennis Hinkle came, he was with us almost the entire year last year from March really through December, helping us raise funds so that we can actually implement Future Focus 2024. And of course, you can see some statistics here about what our goals were. The total funding goal is $2.5 million. That remains the same. That would give us roughly $500,000 per year to operate on. We're under that right now. We'll talk about that in a second. But of course, we're always looking for new investors. Currently have 115 total investors. So we, again, appreciate that very much. And you'll see the stats. As Steve mentioned, we have almost 30 brand new investors that weren't with us for Vision 2020, which was our last 5-year plan. And then you can see briefly when it comes to the finances, a number of our investors stayed the same with their donation to us. Others went up, others went down. So just a little bit of transparency for your information there. Andy? So financial overview, this is somewhat different. We haven't included this in the past. I do believe in transparency. We do also use this report as almost like our annual report. And so we've included this information in here. So the membership investment is really the core of our annual budget. Membership investment really comes from all of you who are our investors. So currently that number is about $415,000 for 2020. Again, the goal is 500,000, so you can see that we're clearly below goal still. The pandemic, the COVID-19 situation certainly slowed us down in 2020, although we still managed to bring on some new investors, and we're still working hard to identify additional investors. So please, if you know anyone that you think should be an investor in the CRDC, please let us know. And then briefly, we brought in additional revenue because, as a nonprofit organization, that's what we need to do. So we did sell 3.3 acres of land to Hero BX for $135,000. That's what we cleared. The farm leases that we have each year, we do have farmers that farm the land out at the rail park, both for the city of Clinton and for the CRDC. So we received the revenue from that. And then new for us this year, we signed 2 option agreements. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But for those option agreements at the rail park, those companies pay us each month to really hold the land for them. The intention is that they will eventually buy it. But in the meanwhile, you can see that they pay us a certain amount each month. And for Project MG, currently it's $2,500 a month, or $14,000 in total for this year. And then Project Circuit pays us $1,000 a month. We signed the agreement back in March, and so for the year it was $9,000. So we brought in about $152,000 in new revenue this year, in addition to membership investment. So although we're down on membership investment, we're still very solid on the financial side. Andy? So these are our metrics for success. And so this was part of our new 5-year strategic plan. These are the core metrics that we chose to really sort of demonstrate success in the community. I won't read them over, but I think the 2 key ones that I'm going to focus on right now are job growth and capital investment. For the 5-year total, we are expecting to do 500 new jobs. Well, for each year then, of course, we would plan to do 100. In 2020, we actually exceeded that goal because we'll talk about some projects in a second, and those projects combined came out to over 150 new jobs just in 2020. Ironically enough, the capital investment number, we went for $100 million over the 5-year period, and thanks to Nestle Purina Pet Care at $140 million for their expansion that was announced and underway in 2020, we've already achieved that. In addition to that, Fiber Inc. came in. We'll talk about that in a second too, and that's $101 million as well. So $101 million for Fiber, 140 for Nestle Purina. We far exceeded that number already. The other ones you'll see we're chipping away at. Again, obviously with COVID-19, some of the other metrics that we had, we weren't able to achieve the numbers that we were looking at initially. Again, you can see what those are: workforce attraction, the training grants, and then STEM exploration, career exploration. We did those things in 2020. We just didn't reach quite as many people as we intended, mainly because of the economic situation that we really don't have any control over, but we expect those numbers to go up shortly. Andy? So this is really, I think, the key excitement for us, certainly the key excitement for the community. Really the major success that we've had in 2020 collectively as a community is these really summed up by these 5 projects in particular. Sewer equipment is out at the rail park. They bought 5 acres of land for the city of Clinton, broke ground in December of 2019. All of 20, they were working at building their new facility, and they're up and running. Nestle Purina Pet Care went public back in February of 2020 with their $140 million expansion, new jobs. Timken, same thing. Timken actually moved into the Clinton community. They remained in Fulton. It wasn't as if they downsized in Fulton as a result, but they expanded into Clinton, and with it came another $1.4 million in capital investment, as well as up to 84 new jobs, and they're still actively hiring for those. Hero BX owns the existing biofuel facility out at the rail park, and they've invested $10 million in that facility and then hired 30 people. Just about now, they're fully up and running. They bought the facility in September of 2018. It took them over a little over 2 years to invest that money, get it fully up and running, and start being operational. So that was a success story, and they're the ones who purchased the land from us. Then we have Fiber Inc., which I hope all of you heard about. We made the announcement in November of 2020 together with IEDA in the city of Clinton. So $101.4 million new investments, and they're going to be working very closely with ADM. So this really, again, for us is the long and short of it. This is really, I think, major successes, again, for our community. It's not all that we do, as you'll see in a second. We do a lot of things each year, but they all build up to each other, and they all basically complement one another, like workforce development, workforce attraction. We need people to take these jobs. And if these people are taking these jobs and don't have the skills they need, we need workforce development. So it all plays together. So Andy, if you want to move on.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Andy Sokolovich. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development, also the man behind the PowerPoint here. COVID-19 really, was a huge impact, but I'd like to say and pat ourselves on the back that the CRDC took action quickly. We launched a COVID-19 resource page, generating about 1,500 unique visitors. We hosted the first response call, Clinton County Emergency Management, in partnership with other organizations like Mercy One here in Clinton, to really give businesses and individuals alike an opportunity to understand a little bit more about the pandemic and what actions they needed to take to make sure they stayed safe and secure. We hosted virtual interviews with our key state leadership to include IEDA, Iowa Economic Development Authority, and Iowa Finance Authority Director Debbie Durham, as well as U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley, really to provide an overview as to what the state was doing in response to the pandemic, also what they were doing from a federal level. We also partnered with the University of Northern Iowa and Iowa Economic Development Authority. We sent out a survey, several surveys, and I want to thank you if you're on the line and you actually took one of those surveys. We do appreciate it. The data meant a lot to us, and your response was valued by UNI, IEDA, and ourselves. So you can see we received 122 business responses, and that was from Clinton County alone. So I'm pretty proud of us for making the impact and putting that information out there so we could respond accordingly as a state. One of the cool things that I like to do, I geek out over technology, you guys know that. And when we went to a pandemic, I was already hot and heavy on the YouTube scene, so it was easy for me to kind of transition and start gathering information and conducting interviews in partnership with Eastern Iowa Community College and our frontline HR professionals to understand how businesses were responding. So we conducted interviews with individuals from Nestle, UFP Technologies, Sethnes Roquette, McCarthy Bush, Strata Communications, and got a diverse insight into what they were doing in response. All of this stuff is available on the CRDC's YouTube page as well, but it was cool to be able to leverage technology and get those individuals on a Zoom call. Workforce development. We enrolled a first student in the Department of Labor Registered Welding Apprenticeship program through Clinton High School, which was huge. So we've been working on this for quite a while. Thank you to Clinton High School for agreeing to allow us to work with you in the Department of Labor to launch the Welding Apprenticeship program. A special thank you to JT Cullen Company. They currently serve as a business partner in the Welding Apprenticeship program, and they were lucky enough this year to bring on Otto Weiss-Fenig, who's doing a tremendous job over there for Michael, Dave, and crew at JT Cullen. We also partnered with Eastern Iowa Community College to create and launch the Manufacturing Awareness Program. If you're not familiar with this, it is a 100% online, no cost, dip your toe in the manufacturing water course. And what it allows you to do is understand if manufacturing is something that you want to take on as a career. So really the creation of the Manufacturing Awareness Program was designed for those individuals that may have been displaced from hospitality or food service and were thinking to themselves, now what do I do? Manufacturing is a beautiful career. You just got to understand the ins and outs of it. So what better way to eliminate all barriers than offer them a free online course? We currently have 54 students enrolled in that course, and they are progressing satisfactorily. We also facilitated 5 manufacturing awareness virtual presentations. I love bringing students and educators alike out to the plants. Can't do that in a COVID world. Can't bring the manufacturers into the classroom either. So what we did is we leveraged technology and brought them or connected them via Microsoft Teams. We hosted a presentation from LyondellBasell, Custom Pack, Collis, Big River Packaging. Big shout out to Kip Simpson of Big River Packaging. He did a phenomenal job. He actually sent stuff to the school. If you're not familiar with Big River Packaging, they manufacture empty boxes, which sounds simple, but it's insanely complicated. And he actually sent those boxes to the school filled with cupcakes so they could see how the design works, how the folds actually work. So he had a great hands-on message there. And then Nestle Purina Pet Care as well. Workforce development, we launched a new series, Women in Manufacturing. I love this series. I love getting out there and making these videos. What we're really trying to do is showcase the amazing females that work within our manufacturers here in the greater Clinton region. So kind of demystify anybody like perceptions they have of manufacturing of being a dirty man's old environment. There's great people out there working in our manufacturing sector. A lot of them are ladies working in the industrial side. They're doing production, they're doing welding, fabricating. They're also on the engineering side. We will continue this with LyondellBasell, Air Control. We're soon to go out to Big River Packaging and Alter Trading here in Clinton as well. Again, available on our YouTube page, but this has been a very popular series. Workforce development, we also hosted a first of its kind drive-through career fair, right? Career fairs are traditional, set up a booth, walk around a rectangular room, go around and pick up tchotchkes and bags full of information. Those days are somewhat over for us right now, at least. So we had to be creative. So we partnered with the American Job Center and Iowa Works out of the Davenport office to launch a drive-through career fair. We had 45 employers participate, hundreds of positions were available. 40 physical job seekers actually drove up and were on site, but we also engaged dozens of individuals via social media through our own digital outreach. And we plan to do this again as well. Aaron, do you want to speak to entrepreneurial development? This was something we're very excited about to introduce through the CRDC and bring Dylan Franks on board.
Yes, thank you, Andy. So long story short, again, the CRDC traditionally has been heavily focused on industrial development, which is great. Obviously that's our bread and butter. And again, we've had great success with that even this year. However, there are gaps in our community that we're aware of. And we think that small business development support, entrepreneurial support was missing. And so we work very closely with the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce. And I know Angela Reingids is on, director of the DeWitt Chamber and Development Corporation. We also work very closely with them to bring in the SCORE chapter. SCORE is short for the Senior Corps of Retired Executives. They're affiliated with the U.S. Small Business Administration. They have a chapter down in the Quad Cities. They used to be active in Clinton, and that fell off a number of years ago. So collectively, again, we worked to bring the SCORE chapter from the Quad Cities back into Clinton County. We are now officially affiliated again as part of the Quad Cities chapter of SCORE. Very pleased with that. Dylan Franks is our main point of contact. He lives in DeWitt. And if it weren't for Dylan, maybe it would have taken longer, certainly, to get this moving. So Dylan had actually come to us and volunteered to help. And so now we're able to provide more frequent, and I think better quality support services for existing small businesses and also for entrepreneurs. So we see this as part of workforce development. If there are young people in school or recent graduates who are looking to do something, maybe they don't want to work for somebody else, they want to start their own business. Now we're giving them an opportunity to learn more. How do you do that? How do you get started? And the support services are in place to make it happen. So very pleased with that.
No, thanks, Aaron. Entrepreneurial development is something I'm very passionate about, and the Quad City SCORE chapter and Dylan alike are doing some great things. They have some great free webinars that are out there, so we're happy to support their efforts. Business attraction.
Okay, so Andy and I are going to tag team this again. So business attraction is one of the core things that we do, and obviously it is meant to attract new businesses into the community. They could be from elsewhere in Iowa, obviously outside of Iowa, or internationally. And so we hosted 4 site visits to the Lincoln Way Industrial Rail and Air Park in particular for this year. We had more inquiries than that. We worked on more projects than that. But actually, when people come to do a site visit, that already means that the land meets their criteria, and some of the other requirements that they have, like utilities, have already been met. So now they physically come to take a look at you, meet you, and look at the land in particular. So we hosted 4 different site visits. Several of those moved forward. So again, Spiber was one of them. They visited Clinton back in February of 2020. And then we also had Project Peony, which is still moving along. That's one of our secretive, business confidential ones, but that is still moving along. And there were several others. So again, 4 is less than what we had last year, but at the same time, it still shows a good level of activity, and all those projects are still moving forward. Some actually came to fruition already. The other thing I mentioned previously, the 2 companies that option land out at the rail park, again, that means that they intend to purchase that land in the future and build a facility there. But for whatever reason, it isn't the right time for them, so we're holding the land for them. Project MG, we're holding 72 acres. And then Project Circuit is 10 acres, both out at the rail park. And again, as I mentioned, they pay us each month to do that. Both of those projects are moving forward, and we hope to be able to announce something for them in 2021. I also want to thank Dennis Lauber, who is the CRDC board director, obviously with Howes and Jeffries. He works very closely with the CRDC and has brought in a number of commercial projects, more than the 3 that I have listed here. But the 3 that I have listed are ones that the CRDC also got directly involved in, and we've had some success with that. United Machining, which has been in the paper just recently, is an example of that success. So I just want to specifically say a shout out to Dennis Lauber, and thank you for bringing these projects to us and to our community. And then, as you know, all the business attraction events, as you can imagine, were canceled in 2020. We didn't go to any of them. On the plus side, we saved some money. On the downside, we had to get creative on how else do you reach out to site selectors and others. But we've been doing that mostly through digital and print ads, as well as direct communication with site selectors. We are planning for 2021. We are hoping to do some in-person events, but again, that isn't entirely clear just yet. So one of our biggest successes for the year, certainly on the industrial side, is fiber. And I just want to give you a brief background on how these things come about, because as Steve Clements mentioned in the beginning, a lot of this information is business confidential until it does literally go public. And sometimes it falls apart in the process, which is why we don't go public sooner. And so therefore, you know, literally during our annual meeting last year in December, Debbie Durham was here, director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority. I went with her to ADM to do a tour of the biorefinery because fiber was planning to move in. It wasn't set in stone at that point in time. The CRDC got involved at that point. IEDA already was involved, obviously. So Debbie and I were over at ADM. We want to thank Eric Fastnat and Rod Simpson for the tour. That moved on to hosting fiber officials here in Clinton when they came in person in February of 2020. Mayor Scott Madison was pretty new at the time. I think that was his first dinner. Steve Clements was early on in his board chairmanship for the CRDC. He was involved in that. And so we had meetings, a series of meetings, like a dinner for them, a little schmoozing, a little whining and dining. And then, as you know, that then progressed throughout the year. And then in November of 2020, it went public. And it went public when the IEDA board met to approve fiber's incentive package at the state level. And that is typically when things go public. And so Andy and I participated virtually in the IEDA board meeting to advocate in favor of the state incentives. The city of Clinton has to provide a 20% match for that. So Matt Brook and Mayor Scott were heavily involved behind the scenes as well, all leading up to the November 20th announcement. So again, when these things come out publicly, you know, everyone gets so excited. Oh, this is great. How long has it been going on for? Or what's the backstory? And in this case, the backstory was about a year long. And it involved Debbie Durham, and literally the day of our annual meeting last year was the first time that the CRDC got involved specifically with this project. So it was a little over a year in the making, and that's probably typical. Although I would still say these guys were on a fast track. Project MG I talked about in the screen before. We've been working with them for about 16 months now and still aren't ready to announce something. So they do vary in length, but just an interesting backstory for you.
I'm going to pause real quick. Supervisor Irwin, you had a hand raised virtually. Did you have a question for us? Nope, just accidentally hit the button. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So business expansion, we already touched on some of these here initially. Nestle Purina Pet Care was a big one. And you ask yourself, what do we actually do for Nestle during the business expansion phase? Well, if you have not applied for benefits through the state of Iowa or locally, you understand there's a process. We really serve as a conduit, also helping businesses apply for those benefits, serving on their behalf in front of state officials and local officials, and really ensuring that they get what they deserve in order to create and invest $140 million worth of capital and create 73 new jobs. So we work with Nestle. Timken Drive is a $1.4 million capital investment. As Aaron alluded to earlier, they actually moved in or expanded into the state of Iowa, into the old Dairy Pack building here in Clinton, and now have employees up to 84 new jobs. And then Hero BX, a sizable investment, creation of 30 jobs. It was a vacant facility that was bought by a great company, and we just recently sold 3.3 acres. So lots of things going on, especially with our existing industries expanding, which we love to see. Really, 80% of your economic growth within a region comes from those businesses that expand and remain here to support our own economic growth and development. Workforce attraction, two major programs. Big shout out to all the municipalities, the city of Clinton, city of Comanche, and also the city of DeWitt when it comes to the Community Student Loan Assistance Program, as well as Clinton County. Really, without that support, these would not exist. If you've heard me speak, you've heard me mention Home Base Iowa. It's a veteran relocation program that we have here in Clinton County. In 2020, we were able to recruit 14 veterans through that program, generated an additional estimated $33,000 in new property tax revenue in 2020, and that's due to the purchase of home sales, or excuse me, the purchase of homes. Since the inception of the program in 2016, $1.6 million in home purchases as a result of Homebase Iowa. So I'm extremely proud of this program, not only as a member of the CRDC and this community, but also as a veteran myself. The Clinton County Community Student Loan Assistance Program, again, huge shout out to the county, specifically Eric Van Lanker, for helping me get this off the ground. It was a great partnership. We received some awesome stats here from the gentleman who runs the program for us from a third party by the name of Peanut Butter. So if you heard me say Peanut Butter, this is the program I'm referencing. But what I think is really crazy is that we have nearly 80 people in the program itself. We've already had 4 people graduate out of the program because Clinton County and the participating municipalities help them pay off their student loan debt. I have yet to see a program like this that exists within a smaller community like ours. We've seen states create student loan debt relief, but we've never seen a small rural organization and a community and a county really bond together with their partners to create a program that is going to continue to be successful every single year. So an estimated $45,822 in loan savings, that's principal and interest. And those individuals who are in the program can become student loan debt free almost 16 years sooner than they would have just on their own. So don't do the quick math there. I tried to do it myself and I locked up my brain, but I trust the folks over at Peanut Butter. They're giving me some great stats. Either way, it's been a great attraction tool, and I'm excited to continue working with our partners to promote that program. Moving into 2021, what we're looking at is billboards. We're looking at how we can promote that program just beyond the greater Clinton region borders because it is an attraction tool. So look out for some increased marketing efforts coming your way in the next year or two. Aaron?
Thank you. So now we're going to touch briefly on external relations. As Andy just mentioned, a lot of what we do behind the scenes and throughout the year is marketing. Marketing all these fantastic programs that we have to entice people to move here. So we would call that workforce attraction. Obviously trying to educate people about the new manufacturing awareness program for workforce developments. And obviously marketing the land that we own together with the city of Clinton out at the rail park. Marketing our entire region is a great place to locate your new business. Marketing is critically important. And we don't do that alone. We obviously use a lot of partners and a lot of different platforms for marketing, but external relations is critical to that. And using every single contact we have, using our professional networks, both individually and as an organization. And we're very grateful to our federal level elected officials, or certainly our state level elected officials, and obviously the county and the cities that we work with. They're all critically important to us in the marketing aspect of it. Of course, we use other platforms like newspapers. Clinton Herald's been fantastic for us. We publish ads in different magazines that focus on site selectors. Normally, I would travel in person to different business attraction events and meet directly with site selectors or companies that are looking for a location in the US. All that is critically important. A lot of our budget goes to marketing all of these different programs. So again, I want to thank you for your investment in the CRDC because that makes all of this happen. But external relations, again, despite the pandemic this year, I thought we had a very robust external relations campaign going on. We did partner with the city of Clinton several times over. We brought in Senator Joni Ernst, in particular to learn about the BUILD grant, which is really focused on doing some long-term repairs on Bluff Boulevard and along Manufacturing Boulevard. So we brought her in to take a look at that. We went out to Nestle Purina Pet Care for a visit. They were very gracious in hosting us. I want to thank them for that. Obviously organized a town hall meeting with Senator Grassley. I think he hadn't been in Clinton for some time, so we were very pleased that he chose us for one of his town hall meetings. We've done numerous press releases throughout the year, and again, that goes out to a wide audience. That goes out to different newspapers around the country, site selectors, commercial developers, and others. So those press releases are actually very important. And then a big shout out to the Clinton Herald. We were featured in numerous positive articles throughout the year in the Clinton Herald, and that makes it easier for us to share those links and share that message out with others. So it isn't just us saying it, but now it's been published in the local newspaper, and that really is huge for us. So thank you to the Clinton Herald.
One of the new things we kicked off in 2020 as well is our morning show, which is exciting, right? How many economic developers have their own morning show? Well, we do here at the CRDC. So weeklies on Wednesdays from 8:15 to 8:30. You can hear either myself or Aaron joined by a list of investors on MAC 94.7 FM right here in Clinton. We don't always want to take the spotlight, right? We love to talk, especially me, if you can't tell. But we want to make sure that our investors are getting the bang for their buck. So part of being an investor in the CRDC is an opportunity to go on the radio with us and not only share what's going on in your business and your organization, the successes, the opportunities for growth, but also why you chose to invest in the CRDC and how we have helped you grow and develop over the years. So it's a great time. We have a lot of fun. If you know Chris Streets, he's a great guy to be on the other side of the mic with. I had the opportunity to be on his station as a morning show host for a number of months. So I do love this opportunity, and it's, again, a great perk for our investors.
And I just want to give a shout out also to Dave Vickers and KROS. We don't have him specifically listed here, but we work very closely with Dave as well. I do a quarterly radio show on KROS, so we're very grateful for that also. It's a great opportunity for us to get our message out, and again, to allow our investors to talk about some of the exciting things going on at their companies, including hiring. That's been a key focus for this year, is all the different companies are hiring.
So business retention. So we have a program called Value, and this is something we built in 2016. Value is an acronym for how we go out and engage existing businesses. The V is to simply go out and visit them, right? Which has been tough this year, but I've been able to hammer out some Zoom meetings, so I'm thankful for technology. A is to simply acknowledge them. And as we move into our Value Spotlight Award, you can really see where that acknowledgement comes from. They're doing some amazing things, whether that's sharing press releases via social media, or it's giving them kudos in our newsletter. We have to acknowledge them. L is to simply listen. We have to listen to what they want us to know, what they can tell us, because a lot of times we spend more often than not, we spend more time talking than actually listening. And really, when we listen, that's when we get the great opportunities to assist them. And U is to utilize the information that we get from companies from around the region and actually apply that in our own strategic planning and mission as a nonprofit organization focused on economic development. And E is to get out there and engage, not necessarily engage the businesses, but engage the public, whether that's speaking at Kiwanis Club or Rotary or putting out a newsletter, ensuring that we have open lines of communication and engaging the community so that they know the CRDC exists and is doing some amazing things. If people are out there saying there's nothing going on within this region, you may want to get them checked for cataracts because they're not looking closely enough. I tell you, we've been busier than ever in 2020. So I sit down every other month with a group of people in the existing industry committee, and we have a conversation about who's doing what. We have some award categories. We have 4, they're quarterly, and we have a conversation as to who's deserving of those awards, who's worked on innovation, who's invested in the community, who's been around for a very long time and really serves as a cornerstone organization within our communities. And then we make a selection of who's going to receive our Value Spotlight Awards. I'm always looking for new people to bring into the fold. So if you want to get involved in that conversation, please let me know and I will slap your name on the committee list. 2020 was no exception, busy with the awards. We had 3, a Community Cornerstone Award went to Clinton National Bank, Community Impact Award went to Lyondell LaSalle, and the Innovation Award went to Citizens First Bank. And I'll just give you a highlight as to what those organizations did. Community Cornerstone, Clinton National Bank's been around for over 155 years. I'd say that's definitely a cornerstone operation here in our community, so we wanted to acknowledge their longevity. Community Impact Award, Lyondell LaSalle. During the COVID pandemic, right in the beginning, they made a commitment and donated $50,000 to a local food pantry to help out families that were in need right here within our community. They also donated masks and face shields to our local school districts so they could get back to in-person education. So they received the Community Impact Award. An Innovation Award, Citizens First Bank went through a whole core conversion. I'm not a banker, Mr. Clements, so I don't know exactly what that means, but I know you were introducing new technologies that really advanced and enhanced the way people bank today. So we issued them the Innovation Award. And in a second here, unless Aaron, you have anything else to add to these 3, I will move on to announcing our Industry of the Year.
Yes, thank you so much. Just want to again congratulate all the companies and really emphasize the fact that we love input, and you don't have to be a board director, generally have to be an investor to be on the existing industry committee. So always looking for good people to volunteer and help us out with making these selections throughout the year.
So Industry of the Year is one of those organizations, businesses, operations in the community that have really gone above and beyond. And I don't think anybody's going to argue with me when I announce the winner of the 2020 Industry of the Year, because without a doubt, they were put through the test and trials of making sure we all stayed safe. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? That's what my dad used to always tell me, and I believe it to be true. So I'm excited to announce the CRDC's 2020 Industry of the Year Award going to Mercy One right here in Clinton. I know Amy's on the line. I just want to touch on a few of these bullets here before I turn it over to her to make some acknowledgement statements and thank her team. But they employ over 950 individuals locally. That makes you one of the, if not the largest employer here. People often forget that. They don't have a smokestack attached to their operation, but 950 individuals locally. They work alongside community health and emergency response officials. They did the testing supplies, PPE, inpatient beds. So while we were at home at night, taking care of our loved ones or laying on the couch, these individuals were out there figuring out if we had enough inpatient beds for those that were affected by COVID-19. Do we have enough PPE? And their clock didn't end at 5 o'clock and they didn't just get to check out. This was a 24/7 response. They dedicated a testing center that was launched at the old Gateway Surgery Center on March 23rd. And then during a pandemic, they're building a new facility to install a new linear accelerator, which was a huge local funding campaign. I had the opportunity to MC some of your fundraising efforts, which I loved doing, but they broke ground on a new linear accelerator, which is part of the Radiation Oncology Treatment Center there on North 4th Street. 2.3 million yards of concrete poured just to form the vault itself. That's an insane amount of concrete. I can't wrap my head around that. But the investment was $6.4 million. And shout out to the community too, because without them, this wouldn't have happened. $2 million raised through local outreach. So without a doubt, 2020 was a trying year, but I would say it was successful for you. You continue to impress me and everybody within the region. So congratulations to Mercy One, Amy Berentis and her team. Amy?
So thank you very much, Andy. And as you started to give some of the other awards or recognize some of the other companies, it reminded me of early on in our response, all of the companies that donated PPE to us and meals, and there were so many from the community that I would forget somebody if I tried to mention all of them, but just want to shout out, you know who you are, and just another thank you. At that time, we didn't know whether we'd have the PPE we needed, and it was nice to be secure with some of the face shields that you were talking about, Andy. But I do want to thank all of the members of the Clinton Regional Development Corporation for this recognition. And I really can't think of a time that it's more meaningful, as we just finished our, I would call our third surge in patients, particularly our inpatient population. And, you know, when I think about the two distinct reasons why we were selected for this award, one being the COVID response, I just have a couple things I'd like to say about that. And Andy, the work that was done to really provide the testing center for the community was phenomenal. We began meeting, it seems like forever ago now, that first week in March as an incident command center. And by the way, huge collaboration and community involvement there. Michelle Cullen and Nancy Burns were part of our incident command team, and they stuck with us as we met daily for a while, to, you know, twice a week to 3 times a week, weekly, back to daily. They were with us every step of the way, and we worked together very closely. So I did want to mention that. But our testing center, we made a decision and stood up that testing center in 4 days. We really understood the fact that if we didn't know that patients had COVID, we wouldn't be able to treat them effectively. So really serve that need for the community. And really that group of clinicians were on the front lines from the very beginning over at Gateway Surgery Center and served, I think, the community very, very well through a difficult time. Lots of emotions in a testing center, by the way. People want to be tested when they want to be tested. And so there was a lot to work through in just the education of the community and when it was appropriate for testing and when it wasn't. We were very lucky to be part of Mercy One and Trinity Health and be served by a national corporation as well. I will have to say that, securing the PPE supplies and testing supplies made us, we had a lot of advantages over many of the organizations around us. I know that early on, we received enough testing supplies to test all of our patients that were going to be inpatients so we could appropriately segregate that population from the rest of our patients and keep patients safe and secure. Many organizations didn't start that until just recently, and we started very, very early on in the pandemic. Our first real surge, I would say, of patients was in July, which was a little surprising to us as we had shut down our business, as many of you did back in the spring. And we all were reeling a little bit from the financial repercussions of that. But then coming to July in the summer and almost taking a deep breath, thinking, okay, we got through this, we began to surge and really had some great outcomes with our patients as we learned a lot in between spring and summer in terms of treatment. This latest surge was probably the most challenging to us in October and November. And I don't know if many of you are aware, but we admitted close to 100 inpatient COVID patients in October and November. And we discharged the majority of them, and that's the good news. But it really served to challenge us in terms of we were not the only hospital that was filled. We couldn't transfer patients to any other hospital either. So it was trying to manage patients using our home care and HME services like we've never done before in very creative ways to take care of patients at home. Our OB colleagues, our obstetrics and gynecology colleagues were also challenged with trying to care for patients post-pregnancy that end up becoming critically ill. So many challenges with all different types of patients. We expanded our critical care unit. We had an average of 5 patients pre-COVID to 15 patients during COVID. And I would say we pushed that to being more like 20 down the hall from our critical care unit. We had very, very critical patients during that time. So I guess, in saying all of this, our nurses and providers were prepared for the surge. They did a fantastic job. And really to say that our healthcare workers are heroes, I get a little emotional, is an understatement. Sorry. I think once you step back and start thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I've been witness to unbelievable courage, selflessness, compassion, perseverance on a daily basis. And I take this, recognition on behalf of all of them. The good news is we have a lot of hope. Vaccines are on their way. And we plan to have those in Clinton next week. We'll vaccinate our healthcare workers, and then we'll get on to serving our community by being a site for vaccines. So lots more to come about that in terms of community education and so forth. But shifting just a little bit to cancer care, I was able to witness from my window all of this cement being delivered and watch that go up. It was just a phenomenal event. And trying to do construction during COVID and make sure we were keeping our construction workers safe and so forth. But our community can't be thanked enough for the $2 million that they donated towards this structure and the linear accelerator. We are about ready to open up. After the first of the year, we're in the process of commissioning that device. There's lots of work to be done to make sure that that linear accelerator delivers that radiation just as precisely as we all would want it to be delivered. And we're going to be able to treat advanced cancers and that we haven't treated before. And that's great news for our community. This wouldn't be possible without Dr. Agarwal and Dr. Dion and all of their staff, and just wanted to make sure that they're acknowledged. And as we prepare for that, we'll continue to enhance those services. So again, just want to thank the CDRC. We feel like we're in the middle of something really special with the growth that's been happening through Aaron and Andy and the staff's work, and we're thrilled to be a part of all of the wonderful industries here in Clinton. And again, just thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. And just for those of you who may not be aware, Amy is on the board of directors for the Clinton Regional Development Corporation. Obviously very grateful to that. They're also one of our larger donors or investors, and just a fantastic job to all your team. We haven't seen what's going on over there, at least most of us, and I guess that's a good thing. It means we haven't been over to the hospital. So we can only imagine the difficulties and challenges that you and your team have been facing this year. And thank you so much for doing all of that on our behalf.
Yeah, so continue the recognition, Amy. You will see this beautiful full-page ad in the Clinton Herald this coming Saturday, the 19th, so be sure to cut it out and hang it on your refrigerator. We will also be framing it and one day hopefully delivering it to you. If not in person, we'll just do a quick drive-by and throw it out the window or something like that. Either way, we'll make sure you get it, and there will also be a radio announcement too. So congratulations, everybody. Let's give her a little virtual round of applause and Mercy for their Industry of the Year award. Okay, well, I stopped sharing my screen, so I'm going to turn it back over to Chairman Steve Clements.
Actually, Andy, if I could, I'll interrupt for just 1 second. So I'm just going to add to the fact that I said earlier that the CRDC mostly focuses on the industrial development in our community, which means we mostly work with manufacturers, but I think we all understand that economic development and creating jobs and building stability and just growing our prosperity overall is certainly not just based on the industrial companies, although they play a significant role. The CRDC obviously works with many different industry sectors. Again, the banks have been mentioned, credit unions play a key role. Obviously, Mercy One of the hospital, all the medical system in this community is significant. I mean, they employ a significant number of people. And they're really sort of a key component in our growth overall and being able to attract in new people. So workforce attraction is critical to that. Workforce development is not just focused on industrial companies, not just focused on manufacturing. Workforce development and career awareness, we cover a wide range of different categories and industries there for the students in school. So I do just want to emphasize that the CRDC, again, is very grateful to all of our investors. We do work with many different sectors of our economy, and collectively together is how we grow the greater Clinton region. So thank you again for all of that. And now I'm gonna shut up and pass it over to Steve Clements. So.
Congratulations again to Mercy One. The resiliency that you've shown within your industry during this time is truly remarkable. So now it is again my privilege to pass the virtual gavel on to incoming chair, Paula Stewart. Paula works for Alliant Energy. She's been an incredible asset for our organization and for our region. I've known Paula for the last 2 years. I'm looking forward to seeing the dynamic that she will bring in 2021. And I will turn it over to you, Paula, for your comments.
Thank you, Steve. Sorry, I had to find that mute button. Yes, I am Paula Stewart. Some of you might remember me as Paula Schneckloth. I did have a COVID wedding in the backyard of one of my best friends. As Steve mentioned, I work for Alliant Energy. I have been there for 6 years. My role there is to handle all of the community relations, economic development, and I manage all the major industrials from Clinton all the way down to Muscatine. One of my favorite parts of this job is economic development. It is so exciting. In the community relations, I get to meet all of these great people that are on the screen with you now. I miss, with this COVID, I miss seeing them every day because that was the best part of my job. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be the chair of this organization with all of the amazing things that are happening. Alliant Energy supports our economic development groups with great enthusiasm because if they don't exceed, we don't exceed. So, or succeed. Did I say exceed? will exceed, succeed, whatever. So, I mean, it is my job to see them succeed. So it's just amazing the things that are happening, the things that are going to happen, and to watch all of us grow together and watch the Clinton community grow. I know the city's doing amazing things. I don't know how many times I've said amazing right now, but just super excited to be part of this corporation and to be the chair next year. Yeah.
Thank you, Paula. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna do amazing things and provide great leadership as you've already done as first chair. So I'm looking forward to it. Moving on, the CRDC bylaws require an election of the board of directors during the annual meeting. So I'd like to thank the nominating committee for these members, the nominating committee members, which would be Paula Stewart, Carrie Finzel, Mike Johnson, and Rich Phelan. As we mentioned earlier, there'll be a couple board members that are departing, and a couple members that will be seats will be filled, and we needed to put this nominating committee together to be able to fill those spots. They came together, quickly, and we identified, and it's been it was a smooth process. So I appreciate your help on the nominating committee. I'd like to thank our departing board members, longtime board member Tom Fullerton, formerly of Clinton National Bank, and Marcy Ordez, formerly of Data Dimensions. Thank you both for your commitment to our organization. Tom's been involved for many years around the community in several organizations. We appreciate his commitment as well as Marcy's. These seats will be filled by the nominees of Dave Jones of JT Cohen and Chrissy Govek of Metform. I'd also like to mention that we had two board members that will be replaced by their organizations. Aaron Clark of Nestle Purina Pet Care will soon be replaced by Kelly Laughlin. And Randy Boonstra, City Administrator for the City of Fulton, retired in September, and he'll be replaced eventually by the new Fulton City Administrator. So we'd like to thank both of you as well for your commitment to the organization. So now I'd like to present the slate of the directors that we just mentioned previously. The directors that are out there would be Bob Holsinger, Quality Concrete, Jarek Lucky, Iowa American Water, Chrissy Govek, Metform, Matt Birkin, Clausen Companies, and David Jones, JT Cullen Company. So now I'd like to ask if there's any further discussion or nominations from the floor. Anyone can unmute at this point, or we will unmute for you.
Steve, this is Rich. I'd move that nominations from the floor cease and that we nominate the members mentioned by the nominating committee.
Steve, this is Greg Tubbs. I second that.
Okay. All right, with a motion and a second, thank you, Mr. Rich Phelan and Mr. Brig Tubbs. We'll need to do a virtual. All in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed? I don't think that was opposition.
That was just a late aye, I think.
Okay. Okay. All right, let me get back. So that's our last actual order of business that we have for today. I know Aaron will have some parting remarks as well, but I would like to, thank everyone again for participating. Certainly an interesting year and time to have a meeting as such. Looks, we had a great turnout, so I appreciate that. Appreciate all the investors again for being a part of our organization. I look forward to a successful 2021, and I will turn it back over here to Aaron and Andy for any closing remarks.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thanks for all of you for participating today. We did send out the proxies in advance. We did receive some of those for folks who weren't able to attend virtually today for the meeting. So this was considered a quorum. Thank you all for considering the slate of directors, and certainly for those who stepped up to volunteer to be new board directors. We certainly appreciate that. And what I'll mention too, lastly, is that the CRDC runs on a calendar year. So this is literally the end of our year. We're wrapping everything up. Obviously had a very successful, productive year, and we thank all of you again for that, certainly for our investors. We couldn't do any of the work that we're doing right now without your financial investment in our organization, which is a financial investment in our community. And I think we demonstrated that today in all the wonderful things that we've talked about. So thank you so much for that. And we're going to start January 1st, 2021 with a brand new year and our new budget and enthusiasm and a somewhat new team with Stacy Borgeson with us. And I think we're in a really good place to do fantastic things in 2021 with your continued support. And I want to thank our board of directors again for all of their guidance and input and volunteerism throughout the year. Really appreciate that. And I don't have anything else. So Steve, I'm going to, and/or Andy, if you have anything you want to share.
It looks like Gary DeLacy has his hand raised. Gary, do you have a question or a comment?
That was my way of voting earlier.
Oh, well, very clever.
Yeah.
And did Jim Irwin get his question asked?
He didn't have a question. It was just by mistake. He got excited seeing the little icon.
Okay. I thought he was waving at me.
Thanks, Andy.
I
thought maybe he missed me. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah. No, I have no comments. 2020, I think at 11:59 on December 31st, we're all going to be excited to see that calendar turn to a new year with new opportunities. So thank you so much for allowing me to be part of the organization.
And I want to thank you too for this is Jim Irwin again. I do want to thank you too for the work that you have done and the other members of your team. You guys have had a pretty good run this year. For 2020, Clinton CRDC has done a darn good job. So I want to thank you guys on your performance. It's been amazing. You guys have a great Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yes, you too, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Well,
Right.
Steve, want to shut her down?
Yeah, well, again, this will kind of bring our program to a close. Not the way we wanted to handle such a successful year, but we, just like I mentioned earlier, we were able to adapt and kind of overcome, and still had a lot to celebrate, and still wanted to be able to share that with all of you on the line. So we appreciate, again, everyone's involvement in our organization. We look forward to a successful 2021, and I wish everyone to take care and be safe and have a happy holiday.